Well, it is raining in Florida right now, down in Lake City, and chances are that it's probably going to rain again tomorrow. Bad news for everybody down there, but good news for me because I was able to track down last night's winner at All-Tech Raceway in the Sportsman division. Brian Calabrese, you know him, 35 years old. He runs primarily up here in the Northeast. But he had a heck of a run. After a second place on night one, he came 17th to first in his crate engine car last year. And, of course, you guys remember some of the issues he had with the crate last year. So let's head on down to Lake City, Florida. That's where All-Tech Raceway is, and that's where Brian Calabrese got to celebrate. The picture you're looking at is the one they did in the pits with the little board there that says the winner and everything. Brian, how we doing, man?
We're doing good, other than the fact it's raining.
Yeah, I know, because you were really looking forward to this after what happened last year, weren't you?
Yeah, but we got luckily. If we didn't win last night, I would have been really bumming tonight. It would have been awful.
Yeah, and what happened last year? What is it? You had a motor, you had set down, and then you had a backup, but you didn't know much about it, and it turned up there was a problem with that backup.
Yeah, nobody believes you. I had a friend that I would trust. I trust him with anything, and I still do. And just he got a used motor, and I had my motor, and I had three motors at the time. One was out, one was in my car, and another one was in my other car, and didn't have to be torn down. And he said, "Well, I got the one on the floor. That's our spare. Just take that in case you need it." And it's a lot easier to grab one of your friend's motors that you never would think there's anything wrong with it, and never even think you would need it, because how often do you need a spare crate motor? And
not often.
We threw it in the trailer and went racing,
So after
so what happened in South Carolina, we had a rocker issue, and we switched the motors, and I think it was 4:30 in the morning. I was adjusting the valves, and I looked at the rockers and said, "Man, these are shiny," because they're stamped steel. But I was so tired. I looked at them. I said, "They're a little bit shinier." And I looked at the date of the engine. I'm like, "Oh, that's an old engine. Maybe because it's an older engine, they were shinier."
Okay.
And I never thought anything else of it, and we went racing.
And then you had a problem at Tech and got DQ'd, basically.
Yeah, we ended up winning, and then come to find out they're 1/6 rocker arms. Now I can pick them out over anything. But other than that, it was legal. And what made it worse was then everybody else was getting DQ'd, and I could have sworn I was 100% legit, because my stuff is, and I proved that this weekend.
So were you nervous heading into Tech? Because you never really know. I mean, you knew what you had, but right?
I used to when I started racing, I was really nervous because I had used stuff. But now that I have sponsors and people that help me out a ton, and I have newer stuff, I know what it is. I never got nervous. Now, the Vermont 200, we almost won. We finished second. I was nervous. And then I was really nervous this weekend, just because when you don't know, and like something like that pops up, it's awful. It's the worst feeling ever.
I can imagine.
But deep down inside, I knew. But there's so many, and then the problem you lie now is I'm racing modifieds, and there's so many different rules with the shock springs, rubbers, helper springs, bump stops. Distributors, I bought a new distributor, and it's welded, and it says right in the rules at Dale's you can't weld them; they got to be plated. And it's just, thank God I did my homework, because if one of them things went in the car, not knowing, you'd be DQ'd, and then it looks awful, but it's an honest mistake.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it is, where people automatically jump all over people. Like, I love it when somebody's light on the scale and they say they were cheating. Nobody plans to be light on the scale, Brian. I mean, that's just a miscalculation, right?
Correct. Like an example is bump stops. I had bump stops. I threw bump stops in my left rear shock and head down to Florida. Well, for some reason, I read another part of the rule. It said the bump stops can be 2 1/4 for STSS, and the ones I had were 3 inches. If I didn't catch that, I would have been DQ'd over a 1/2-inch piece of foam.
Yeah.
They checked them. Mine was like 20 thousandths too big because they come a hair over. I mean, that's how crazy this stuff gets. But that's what crate racing needs, and I don't disagree with it.
I read the sentence here. This is what they said during the press release, too, so I kind of had a feeling he had a really good car. In the 25-lap Crate 602 Sportsman feature, Brian Calabrese, this is him right now, drove through the field and under Joe Toth to take the lead. So I figured you passed a few cars, but, man, you started 17th.
Yeah, it's when you have a good car, you can drive it. Everything fell our way. I knew we'd have a good car. We had probably the best car there, but there's times where we were in practice 2 days prior to that, we were on top of the charts. We were fast once, fourth quickest the next. Track constantly changes. I watched an interview with McCready, and he said that All-Tech's got to be the best track. I mean, you can be the best driver ever and try to hit your marks. It changes lap to lap. Like one lap you go in, your front end will push. The next lap, it's insane. There's no other track like this, but it's in that same scenario. It's like one of the funnest tracks to race.
Okay. So did you use the same groove, or were you, because it's changeable as the track is, I would imagine you couldn't.
No, I went wherever I had to go. Joe Toast started third. I had a bad heat race. I went there. A guy spun out in front of us. Rookie started on the pole. We're all there. He went across my nose and got us jammed up. And then I got in a battle for fifth. I got the fourth, and I tried to get the redraw spot on the outside, and then I ended up losing it to fifth. And that's what put me out of the redraw starting 17th. And I was kind of shaking my head, and then Scott Hamlin there that owns the Speed Shop in Johnstown messaged me and he was watching on TV, and he just told me what he thought, and
really?
we chatted a little bit about a right rear spring adjustment to make, and I really didn't want to make that adjustment because I knew how good my car was when it got slick. But I knew that adjustment wasn't huge, and if it could help us a little bit, we would be good to go.
So how does this one rank? I mean, 17th and 25 laps, that doesn't happen a heck of a lot. This one's got to rank right up there from a fun factor, right?
Yeah, I didn't. I was sitting there in 17th just praying I didn't get wrecked, and but I really love slick track racing.
Yeah.
I won't race a crate anymore if it's on a heavy hammer down track. It's just no fun.
Yeah.
I switched shocks from Fox to Penske. Everything else is the same, and Mike Walton has gone out of his way for me so many times, and he's unbelievable. What just a set of shocks change, and we proved it last night.
So is there any chance that you might race on Saturday? You guys getting this Friday night. I made sure to air it, or is it 100%?
It's 95%. I just looked before you called, but it is Florida, so does it all pass?
You never know.
That's why the Deo said he wouldn't cancel it until morning. Yeah. So I mean, if it's bad, they're going to call early in the morning so we can get on the road. But I could make the call to head out tonight, but it doesn't. I mean, we got the room, might as well sleep and be rested up.
Yeah, and if you were coming off a 19th in a wreck, you might head home, but coming off a win, we're definitely going to stick around. That's reality, right? So,
well, it's kind of bumming because tonight was big money. Yesterday was $1,500 to win, which was good money, but it would have been $2,500 to win tonight. And when you have a car that dominant, and I mean, when I seen that 4 Iceless car pull in, I thought I was a fifth place car or a second place car because he is pretty dominant.
So you'll be racing mods this year all year? Is that the plan?
It's tough. I plan on racing Albany, Saratoga with big blocks. That's pretty much set in stone.
Okay.
And then I have a spec getting rebuilt, and Jeff and I are trying to find something for Fonda. Okay. I would like to have maybe 2 big blocks, or because I bought a big block and it's getting rebuilt, and I'm trying to get another one so if something happens you have a backup motor. But then you're not as good at Fonda because it's really not a big block track unless it's the correct big block, and the Fonda big block's not going to be good enough for it's crazy, the engine packages. And so I mean, we're just going to see. I'm going to see what happens and do what I can.
And that's what he's going to do tonight. Going to go out to dinner. Where are you going? Do you have a favorite spot you like to go?
We'll probably go to Texas Roadhouse, and then
I love the Roadhouse. I always loved that place. That's one of my favorites all around. So, will you have fun, man? I really appreciate you making time for me. Go have a steak for me, have a cold beverage for me, and I'll talk to you when you get back home, okay?
10-4, and thanks for calling.
I appreciate you making time for me. I just happened to see I saw his post where they said they rained out for tonight, so I was like, yes, I'm going to try to see if I can get a hold of anybody. So thanks again for getting back to me. Hit the Blue E, guys. Subscribe, turn on notifications, likes, comments. If you got somebody you want me to get to, just throw me a message on Facebook or anything. We'll make sure we get that done. Enjoy your night, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you.